Bienvenido, caballeros, damas. Welcome to week 9 documentation of the Hack Reactor coding bootcamp. And just to say, pretty stoked because after week 9 completion, starting tomorrow, the company galvanized Hack Reactor is on a company-wide spring break, so there's no class in session whatsoever for this following week. So that is great. Whether you want to say relief for myself or other students, but it just allows for more time to get caught up in everything you've been learning, digest, also get some time to do non-coding in front of the computer activities, which is a great way to decompress and give your mind a break from everything. That's just a joke, but nonetheless, we're on spring break. So for week 9, what you see right now is just going to be some B footage of some happenings this week in Santa Rosa. First update, the volcano has not gone off yet. The government has issued several statements over the past couple of days that the volcano could go off within days or weeks. So with that, who knows when it's going to go off. The government has also sent messages through one of the main cell phone providers, Claro. I received it, for example, and my girlfriend also received it, just kind of establishing like evacuation plans or like tidbits of messages in regards of like, hey, you should prepare for a like getting out bag or evacuation bag. You should have this in the bag itself. So for example, it'd be like water, clothes, flashlight, other additional useful tools for when you were being evacuated from a place. But I can say at the moment that just seeing everybody around town. So for example, when I went to a church service last night, the night before Easter, there was like 2,000 people in this church, and everybody's just going about their life as normal. So it's not like a major concern for most people here. Then again, that could just change depending on the news that is given by the government. So nonetheless, let's just get into coding. And again, everything you're seeing right now is just happenings this week in Santa Rosa de Cabal. Went on a very lovely afternoon walk with my girlfriend, and I enjoyed the dog, and later had lunch with the parents. And it was just spectacular green footage there. Let's get into the learnings for this week with the new glasses. I'm very stoked. I got new glasses. I'm grateful for Val. Helped me pick those out. I got another pair too that I will be displaying later on. So when you're staring at the computer, whatever you're doing in life, if you're from the computer or screen, it's important to have good glasses that are not only comfortable, they're stylish, but also they block the blue light. Alright, so for this week 9, continuing on with our Conference Go project, but we actually transitioned to another repository that's building off that Conference Go called Fearless Frontend that we forked earlier and cloned earlier in the week on a Monday, or I think it was a Tuesday, I can't remember, I think it was a Tuesday, because Monday we had maybe 70 to 100, somewhere around there, I'm just ballparking it, but it seemed like a lot. 70 to 100 JavaScript problems. So really, I like how they interweaved week 8 and 9 with lots of JavaScript problems and going into different lengths and depths of the different aspects of JavaScript and how that relates especially to what we just learned in Python. There's a lot of similarities, but really differences are just syntactical related. So with Fearless Frontend, because it has the word frontend, we're going to be using React, like you see right there in blue, React. So React is mainly used for the front-end side. And in fact, right now I'm just going to show some footage of a screencast, just dive into more of what I've been working on with the Fearless Frontend, implementing more detailed API calls, and the structure of the folders for handling my microservices, just handling the main app in general, with these API calls, as well as showing a little bit about the React that I have been working with this week. So let's go ahead and show that, if you don't mind, Ricardo, because that's what I'm employing right now to help me with my video footage. I'll make the shift to allow me to show what I need to show. For some reason, I've just frozen. That is very odd. There we go. I'm back. Okay. So sorry. You almost lost me there. Okay, so this is my, let's go back to this. So this is my GitLab for the Fearless Frontend repository that I've worked on this week doing React. Where's that React at? There's the React. Okay, you see it right there. So just to show documentation purposes, I've done 43 commits for this week project on Fearless Frontend, and I'm going to open up the code base here very shortly. And I don't think right now at this point it's not important to do like these hyper or these micro commits on almost like every little snippet I do, but I just find I also like to do it from the standpoint of getting the habit and knowing how important it is to commit, especially when we're working with a team of engineers on a specific project. But as well as just to provide the documentation as far as like what I have been working on day by day. And so for example, a lot of the stuff we did this week was primarily dealing with incorporating the forms for the conference Go and tying that into the API itself. And then the last day on the 7th, April 7th, which was the Friday, that's when we started messing around with playing with the React itself and the front end. So without further ado, let's see if I can get that going on the first try as I'm recording here. So I think I have, yes, this is my code base here. This is the Fearless Frontend. This is the file structure. Let's go ahead and open this and get this running. And instead of running in the terminal right now, I'm just gonna go to the Docker desktop and run my container from here. So let's go ahead and get this going, and you'll see there are a total of 9 or 10. I think it's 10. Yeah, it's 10 now because I added the React service in my Docker Compose file. So there we go. It is running right from there. So we can go back here to my code base, and then I can initiate, I believe it's going to be npm start, so I can show you the React frontend build. Pretty sure this is how I do it. I could have done a test run before I started filming, but that's never fun. It makes sense to just do it in the moment. Okay, missing script start. I did put start. Probably want to do an npm run. That's probably more what we're looking for. That seems good, but it is running. I know that for a fact. It's running, and then maybe npm start again. Nope, that was not it. Because I know if I go to my local host right now, I'm not going to be able to see anything. Local host 3000 is where it is directed. I probably won't say there's any data there. Oh no, I totally made that up. Yeah, interesting. I totally made that up. Is it? Very interesting. Well, localhost. Was it localhost? No, it was localhost 3001. I think I put that in the wrong port. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this is React itself. So I think if I open up my console, we can even see the HTML structure here. Yeah, look, you need to enable JavaScript on this app, but I know I have some extensions here. Yeah, cool. This is an extension for when doing React. It does say app and navigation. That is because that's going to be tied to my folders here. And I actually shouldn't even be looking at this because I don't even know how these extensions work, because I downloaded this a long time ago. This is actually the first time I'm looking at the extensions, but I have a good idea of what they potentially could do. Regardless, this is what I have so far for my front-end portion of React. And what we worked on Friday was basically to get data from my database for when new attendees decide to attend a conference. So I had to implement my name, Alexander Clemens, in the database, and then tie that API into the React portion to get this to display, and then do a little CSS magic to just get this part to show, and then also add the navigation. So that's what we did so far for the React, which I can show in my code itself. So for example, you'll notice let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. In my Docker Compose file, this is basically the instructions when I'm creating an image, and then also a container for what's going to be needed to be produced. I added into my service files, or my service section, the React-attendees, and that's where I'm creating the npm start. Anytime you're working with React, it's going to be with Node, and you're going to have commands like npm start, for example, or npm run, or there's some other ones too. But this is the key thing. The volumes is directing where the files for what normally the files need to be produced for React and where they're going into my project itself. So that's where you see .ghi/attendees /app or :/app. That is going to be seen here in my monolith, not my monolith, my GHI folder, which was produced originally when I first forked and cloned the Fearless Frontend from Hack Reactor. So what happens when you do this is you get a whole new folder created called attendees, and you open it up and you're given public folder, you're given source folder, and in the source that has all the juicy stuff. The juicy stuff being that's what you're going to work, that's how you're going to build React off of. So for example, in my app.js, this is quite neat. There's a language in between like JavaScript and HDL called like JSX. I think that's what's called, JavaScript React. I think that's what it stands for. But it allows me to use JavaScript, and in that JavaScript file, I'm basically creating HTML in the file itself. But it's slightly different than normal HTML, so you'll notice like a little bit difference, and I don't see it here. But for example, I know this for a fact. Whereas normal HTML, you can just say class, but you can't say class here because class is, what's the proper way to say this? Class has been given a different terminology in the JSX language, so you have to say when you're naming class, you have to say class name for it to be really a class to reference. So all this you see right here for the nav gets displayed right here. And when I just showed you the nav, that's what's actually showing up right here, with this nice little extension I downloaded maybe like 4 months ago. Haven't really used it before until now, in the moment, but I know what this is saying. The nav, that's being showed up right here. I think it stands for, if I remember right, fragment. React.fragment. I don't remember exactly what that means, but I know I had to put that here for me to display the nav and take the information from my database for the attendee, which had the name and the conference that person was going to, and thus display it here. So that's just a little React that I did this week to give you an idea of when you're at like week 9 of the program, how you're kind of going to be working with React the first day or two. In addition, let's go back to that other localhost. I guess it was 3000. Yeah, localhost 3000. This is what we worked on this week, earlier before we started React, which was just basically building the container on Docker, running it, and getting this, hooking up my conferences so they automatically generate. And I actually had more, but I imagine I don't have more that were pre-generated because I imagine I deleted my database, so I have less to be pre-generated. So I have one there. I know I set this location for Anchorage, Alaska, so this is actually the wrong picture it picked up, but I think that's just because I didn't do the right geo-referencing. But you can see here I did numerous amounts of, so again, attendees, that's going to be React based in my monolith, going into, I believe it is going to be in, not the common, is it accounts? Nothing accounts. Is it in monolith? Are we? Sorry, it's not a monolith. It's in GHI. Feels like so long ago since I worked with this. Then it's in the attendees folder. And in, no, sorry, that's React. It's in the JS folder. My goodness. Numerous JavaScript apps or folders. So like app.js, attendee conference, and these functions that I put into the JavaScript folders allow me to basically run forms. So for example, let's go to, I guess it'd be slash. Is it slash? Yeah, there we go. So we go to like new conference. And for instance, this, I had created a new conference form. And for me to do this, I had to have 2 folders, a JavaScript new conference. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see. JavaScript new conference folder with tying in the API for my locations and the conferences to make that happen, and then also the new conference HTML. And there's a lot of similarities between all these HTMLs, which unfortunately the way this project was laid out, it wasn't taking advantage of like the templates when you're creating like HTMLs in Django itself, and you could just build like one template Django HTML, and then put what you need to on that template, and then it can be replicated in all the other HTMLs you create. Because with this project, every time I create a new HTML, I then had to like copy and paste and enhance a little bit on each specific HTML to keep that running theme of, let's just say, for instance, the navigation bar, like the search and attend. I didn't have one base, one base template there. One base template where I could just say what I wanted in the navigation bar, and because I said on that base template, it's going to be shown on every single HTML. Okay, I feel like this video's gone along long enough. Let's continue on with my week 9 thoughts. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for sharing that. I actually wanted to change this background, my theme, to red, but I am not going to do that because this probably can take a little bit longer. So next time you see me do a screencast, it's going to be red, which is probably going to be really distracting, but I want to show that regardless. Where'd I go? Okay, Ricardo, switch it now. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Let's move on with the video. Peace. All right, Ricardo, thank you so much for showing that screencast. In addition, with the JavaScript problems, every day we always have just like practice problems to start the day, so that it can be anywhere from 2 to 4 JavaScript, Python problems, coding challenges. And I'm quite liking those because it's like every day you're always practicing coding, which is a good skill because it just helps you allow to understand the language more. And I would say for the continual advancements of artificial intelligence and the different tools that come from that, and especially allow more, we want to say, low level or a no coding creation of code to be developed once you understand how to create high level prompts for different generative AI tools to send back code. Nonetheless, doing these coding challenges really help with understanding the language better, and when you understand the language better, you can read it better, and you can also debug better, and you can also create better because you have just a better understanding of how everything is linking and working. In addition, on Tuesday, we went more in depth of informational interviews, and I would say from the career service standpoint, up until week 9, at this point, that is probably the most beneficial and valuable piece of information I've gotten up until this point, as well as doing exercises for informational interviews. Informational interviews are the things I've been aware of up until this point in my life. I just didn't know to call it informational interviews. And I like to highlight things that I really like about the informational interviews that was given in different contexts, whether it's the career service individuals at Hack Reactor or just the articles they provide. Just knowing like how to kind of lead an information interview, what's the purpose of doing it, what's the goal you're looking to achieve, and just like really having like pre-planned, solid, good questions that are going to lead to the end goal, which can be just like it says in the 2 words, informational interviews, just getting to know more about the position of the industry or just what it all entails of a specific type of software engineer, or so you want to achieve a certain amount salary-wise or financially-wise or monetary-wise, and just kind of understand the lifestyle of the work that we need to go to reach that level, as well as at the end of the informational interview, establishing a good contact, building a relationship that way. Maybe it's a mentor that you have from now doing an information interview, or the person you did the information interview with will provide another recommendation of another person to talk to. And all of a sudden, now you find yourself growing your information interview network. That being said, I had an information interview with an individual on Friday, at the end of this week. It actually lasted an hour and a half. From the articles and career service, they normally say information reviews 20 to 30 minutes. Way past that, hour and a half. So the individual I had with is Joyce Ma. Let's show a picture. Ricardo, can you show a picture of her LinkedIn profile on the screen? Thank you so kindly, Ricardo. Check out Ricardo's LinkedIn too, because he's definitely a real person. So Joyce Ma, she spent 3 years as a software engineer at a company, you might have heard it, Twilio. I'm sure if you follow tech or you're a software engineer, or you're anything in the space, tech space, you would have heard of the company Twilio. They specialize in video streaming, let's just say. So Joyce specializes in JavaScript, and using JavaScript JavaScript is more front-end based, but she did kind of both, front-end and back-end with JavaScript and relating to the streaming capabilities of video with the service Twilio was providing for all their clients, and using different frameworks to allow their clients to be able to utilize their API, for example. That being said, Joyce is a very humble individual. She's also a former Hack Reactor alumni who finished her program back in 2019. Right after graduating, she became a seer also, In addition, a lot of the conversation was about career stuff, her perspective, and like what she really values going forward for like the environments she wants to be working in as a software engineer. And it was very, very valuable for me to hear from her perspective, because she's coming from a perspective of being in a good, solid team environment that's supportive, that communicates at a high level, that can also provide the feedback that she needs to continue to grow her skills, her career, her profession. And yeah, it was just very grateful that Joyce provided 90 minutes of her time to just answer a lot of my questions. And she's somebody, if you're currently doing the program Hack Reactor, or you're just constantly looking for more individuals that are Hack Reactor alumni to reach out to, I highly recommend reaching out to Joyce Ma on LinkedIn. She's very nice. She's also very helpful, and all the exchanges I've had with her on LinkedIn, I can tell she gives me a lot of her time with her responses back, very detailed. And of course, anytime you're reaching out to people, people can detect when you're serious about the questions you're asking from just how you write your questions and how detailed and how much effort you put into it. So give it a shout out to Joyce. Thank you so much. You're also somebody I consider a mentor. So yeah, highly recommend Joyce if you just want to know more about software engineering and you want to learn from somebody who's also a Hack Reactor alumni. So that's two right there. Joyce, and something I mentioned earlier in this documentation of the process of doing the Hack Reactor bootcamp, is Jason Weston. Okay, we're just going all over the place. And now, I already showed a screencast. Yeah, let's also, Ricardo, it's the third time I'm calling on Ricardo. My goodness, you are going to be asking for a bonus here pretty soon. I gotta make sure I have some copy and pastes on hand. So I also completed during my dead time. Dead time is just like time where I'm walking or commuting, whatever. I have to wait for something in mind. So I just sometimes, if I'm not doing an activity, being like mindful and meditating, whatever, listen to or do like a LinkedIn learning course. So this week's completion of LinkedIn learning course was an AI course on generative AI from I think she is the director of artificial intelligence at a company that was new to me when I heard it. But let's go ahead and show that screencast so I can just go a little more detail there. Okay, Ricardo, I was not ready, man. You gotta give me a warning here before you do that. There we go, okay. We were talking about what? Because I wasn't ready. Okay, we're talking about the LinkedIn course that I did this week. Let's go to that, let's find that. My learnings, and I can reference exactly who the director of artificial intelligence is at this specific company. I don't know where she's from in the world. She has an interesting name. Pinar. That's who it is, Pinar. So this was just again highlighting the role that generative AI is having right now in the world, in the business world, in society, and where it's going from here, giving like practical, realistic examples from a standpoint of like generative AI. The main ones that come to mind are obviously ChatGPT, Generative. Man, I wrote this earlier in a LinkedIn post. I feel like I should know it by now. GPT, my goodness, what does GPT stand for? If I just type in GPT. No, you're not gonna give it to me. There we go. Generative. That's not it. That's definitely not it. I know that's not what it stands for. Well, if nothing less, I have the enthusiasm for this part of the video, which I did not organize whatsoever. But if all this fails, let's just pull up the brief little. Wow, did I not say what GPT stands for? It's so funny. Well, let's just transition from there. So with this LinkedIn learning course, I think one of the great highlights that I got from it was just the standpoint of how popular the tool ChatGPT has become. What I mean by that, I don't remember which episode it was exactly, but I did have it here referenced. Here we are. This right here, point your attention to. So it's just the adoption rate for ChatGPT. Well, just say ChatGPT. I know it says 3 here, but it took less than a week to amass 1 million users. Let's put that in comparison to Facebook, Netflix, Instagram, I have it right here. Facebook took 10 months. Netflix took 49 months. Wow. There were some others too. I know Instagram was also mentioned, but nothing even remotely close. I think Instagram was 2 months of adoption to hit 1 million. So that right there is an indication that whether it's ChatGPT or other generative AI tools are going to be massively adopted for individuals in not just business, but just in society and how we communicate and how we create. I know Pinar spoke volumes to her perspective of, let's just put it this way, she is very pro AI in understanding that it won't, she sees it as a creative renaissance era that it will bring human beings into, from the standpoint of it allows us to transition most individuals from being consumers to producers of creativity. Now, one can dissect that even more, but I'm just saying what her standpoint was. In addition, another thing I want to highlight is she gave a great example of just technology is always evolving and things are always coming and going. So, for example, at one time, as I'm filming this, there's a motorcycle outside, but that's one thing about Colombia is there's just a land of motorcycles. You're always going to hear motorcycles. But regardless, she gave a great example of, they're called knocker-uppers. Who are knocker-uppers? Knocker-uppers are the individuals before alarm clocks were invented that would be hired to go around to people's houses and knock on the doors to wake them up. But once alarm clocks were created, that technology, the opportunity for individuals to amass and put capital and become entrepreneurs to spring about alarm clock factories wiped out the need for having these knocker-uppers. So that's exactly what generative AI is and is becoming. So she is AI director at Sehan Lee. Essentially, if I remember right, Sehan Lee, or one of the projects they do is helps create visual backgrounds for movies or for games at a high level using generative AI, and it really helps eliminate all of the mundane tasks that go through that. Now, they're not finished by the time they use generative AI components, but nonetheless, it really speeds that process up and allows for creativity to blossom even more. So this is just another aspect, another course I really recommend to get a better understanding of what generative AI is, as well as like some other big players that you can use as tools, like DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney are basically like the main players right now for different aspects. I know DALL-E is primarily, it's just generative image based, but I would highly recommend looking at Midjourney, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, as well as, I wasn't planning this again, Ricardo, I'm just going off of the, let's go find her, just the whims of it all. The resources you provide are really great as far as like videos, but there's also like a generative AI LinkedIn group that's very good, gives some good like Medium blog articles, and if you're anyone into tech, it seems like, and it is, that Medium's one of the main spaces that a lot of individuals like to blog or write articles in regards to tech, all things tech. Okay, so thank you so much for just bearing with me. Ricardo, or my past self, called me out, and I was not ready at all to present on this learnings from LinkedIn Learning course, What is Generative AI? But we did it, and I highly recommend it. And keep going forward with your time in learning when you have moments of dead time. LinkedIn Learning is a great course for that. And yeah, let's continue on the video. One thing I did not say in the video, because I already know what I say in the video, spoiler alert, I extended my visa in Colombia. So, ooh, shout out, I get another 3 months of additional stay with the tourist visa. Okay, Ricardo, switch it back. We're cutting into people's time here. Ciao. Okay, thanks Ricardo, appreciate you showing that. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the week, highly beneficial. Again, spent a lot of time on this Fearless Frontend project. Like you saw on the GitLab, I did 43 commits, that's a lot of commits. A lot of those are just micro commits, and I guess I'm just doing that to be in the habit of committing. Something like this, it's just a practice project. Don't need to be committed that often, but I still think it's a good practice and allows me to have documentation on hand as far as like what I'm working on and what are the changes I'm making to produce the results with this project and going projects forward. I'm stoked to be doing React because this is now the second time I've worked on React. I think it was back in January. I did a 0 to Mastery course where one of the projects was React based, and I actually want to go back to that potentially this week if I have time during my spring break. But that a lot of great introduction to React, and you can do a lot of great things with it. I do like, from a standpoint of development-wise, when you're working with React, when you create a live server for it, it's live. So when you just make like even the smallest change, because I'm working on a Mac, it gets updated right away. Whereas unfortunately, if you're working with Windows, it's unfortunate it works this way. But if you're working with Windows, it just doesn't work that way. It does not update. It does not update. Yeah. So going forward, after today, starting tomorrow, we're on a full week off. So for my week off, I've got numerous plans as far as like continual learning. Gonna have a more relaxful and intentional morning through my Monday through Friday this week, because I'm gonna have to start right at 8. So I don't have to be as rushed for when I have breakfast. I can do some more mindful activities as far as meditation, going for a walk, doing some more calisthenics in the morning. Looking forward to that, as well as some other extracurricular things like extracurricular activities I do on the side, whether it's like some side work or just continual learning. So we'll see if I get around to, there's like this ethical hacking course. It's like 0 to Academy? Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name of it. But they offer it, so we'll see if I get around to that. On top of some other things. So yeah, really looking forward to continuing on with week 10, 11, and 12. Week 12 is when we have the module 2 exam. I'm feeling very good. I'm going to plan this week of really highlighting some key definitions for different terminology that was given to us back in week 7 and 8. It deals with like the architecture of building out a software app, and that's like domain-driven design. You have other things like value objects, entities. So I want to highlight that more and establish that in my documentation much better, so when module 2 exam comes, I can reference that very fast and know exactly what all that is and working around. Some other things coming up besides the Vulcan going off at some point in the future here. My girlfriend Val has been now notified, and it is certain now that she will have an opportunity to attend a conference that she has to work at for the company she works for, Family Office Club, in New York City. The event is on May 10th, and it goes from May 10th to May 12th. So I'll be accompanying her for that. So we'll be going to New York City for a very short trip, sometime between like May 8th and May 12th and 13th. More so just for her professional work. So nonetheless, a short trip, but I'm very looking forward to it, because I've only been to the airport, I think once or twice in my life in New York. So I've never actually stepped foot in New York, funny enough, after being to about 55 different countries, flying a lot, never made it to New York. So I'm looking forward to that brief experience, but also at the same time, just again showing you can do this course while traveling. It can all be done, like with a lot of things in life. If you want to do it, you'll figure out a way to do it, and you'll have to make sacrifices, and you just have to be adaptable. Adaptable leads to survival, like Darwin says. We're quoting Darwin. You hear that, Ricardo? I'm quoting Darwin. So yeah, that's week 9 in a eggshell. Not a nutshell, because today is Easter, so eggshell. Yeah, that's everything I want to say. Thank you so much for watching. That was week 9. I hope you have a blessed rest of your time and whatever you're doing in your endeavors. As always, please feel free to reach out with any questions, suggestions, comments, feedback, whatever is going on in life. And even if you're watching this and it's already been like 2 or 3 or 4 years, this footage is like 2 or 3 or 4 years old, still please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to just provide any feedback or comments or assist in anything related to everything that I just talked about up until this point. So, Xander signing off for now, software engineer, AI enthusiast, AI adapter to the new technology and utilizing it going forward and whatever it becomes in society. Okay, need to work on that title. Much love, looking forward to checking in after this week's spring break. Mucho amor, sign up with the transparent Claro classes. Boom!
Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.